Hi everyone. In this video, I am going to do something different. This is a scaled down version of the original piece. This is the overpaint, and this is the original. So I had to crop this piece because it's full body and it's also not safe for work. So I cannot do a public version of this video with the full body, the full piece. Okay. So if you are interested in the full video and others that are not going to be posted in social media, feel free to check out my Patreon in the description. I have several other resources there. And I hope this scaled down version of the full video will be useful for you too. So let's start. In the original, one of the first things I noticed is that there was not a strong sense of form. What I mean by that is that I see her face and I see that the whole face is like a single plane that is catching light in the same way. So her head is almost the same. There is a small hint of a spherical form, but it's not strong enough. The contrast is not strong enough to convey that form. So in the overpin, what I did was to establish that that a lining scheme that conveys to the viewer that he or she is looking at a spherical shape, which is the whole head. So you can see here, for example, if I take her whole skull and also indicate the terminator, that is indeed a spherical shape, mostly a spherical shape. And the terminator, I was very selected with that because I wanted to be very clear, overtly clear. So the hair is has a higher contrast than the skin. So I decided to place the terminator there because it was going to be more visible because the hair with that higher contrast is going to convey that terminator in a stronger way. And the terminator is very important because this is the area that borders between light and shadow. Okay, so it's just a small tip. It's not going to always happen, but be very intentional, be very selective with this kind of decisions because after all, you are in the business of making things very clear. That's one of the things that you should aim as an illustrator, increase the readability of your subjects. So with that established, we can go and see the changes in the face. The face is like a subset of the sphere. It has some subforms that are going to be established in the same way with a contrast between light and shadow shapes. For example, in the forehead, you can see that it can be simplified as a small form that is catching light. And below the forehead, we have our first shadow shape. Usually, if this was a more realistic character, we will have a keystone in the nose with side planes and a front plane. And the eye sockets will be a set of planes that is facing downwards. So here, because we are dealing with stylization, we can merge those planes and create a single bottom plane that will be in shadow, okay? The only exception here, and you will see that we are going to have some small exceptions below, it will be the eyelids. The eyelids are two planes that are facing upwards. So in this area, the only thing that is catching light will be the eyelids. If we go lower, we are going to have the opposite scenario in which the bridge of the nose is merged with the cheeks. Okay, so we're going to have another shape that is simplified, but in this case, it's facing upward, so it's catching light. And the only exception in this area will be the bottom plane of the nose. The only portion of this whole light area that is catching that is in shadow. Okay, so finally we go to the jaw, and here we are going to have another shadow area. It's a bit brighter because we have the pectoralis. We have her chest that is reflecting light, and some of that light is bouncy and is getting catch by the jaw area. So you can see that it looks a bit brighter than the shadow shape area in the eye sockets in the keystone of the nose. So here uh, we have this whole area in shadow. However, we have a small area, a small plane that is facing upward, that is the bottom lip, and is catching light. Okay, hope that was very clear. And let's move to some small points that I want to make too. For example, the use of color. You can see that at the end of the of her ears, a bit on the cheeks and on the lips, we are using the same color. Okay, that is going to create an unifying effect on the elements of your character, on the elements of your composition. So try to reuse the same color in different areas because that ties together your whole composition. You can see that that adds a bit to the appeal too. Is we are seeing that um, small like rubbering, no, not rubbering, but like blushing. Sorry, blushing effect on her that adds some appeal compared to the original. Another thing that was missing in the original, and I forgot to mention that, is that the original is not using the occlusion shadows that happen when the hair gets close to the skin area. So in the overpaint, you can see that there is a occlusion shadow happening there, and that is very important because maybe it's not very visible here, but without without that small shadow, you make your hair less grounded. So any kind of drop shadow or occlusion shadow is very important to take into consideration, even if there is nothing on your subject, assuming you are doing a study, of course, or it's not, it's a bit weak, try to emphasize the drop shadows and the occlusion shadows to ground your elements. You can see, for example, and this was not wrong in the original, sorry, that the neck shadow grounds the head. So I just try to equalize the color, but basically it's something that was correct in the original, and you can try to do those things. The other thing that I did was to increase the drop shadow of the head a bit on the shoulders. You can see that here was not. It was a bit weird because the head is very big, so you obviously you expect a bigger drop shadow. So I tried to increase that in the overpaint. Okay, let's see what else. With the eyes, I just try to break a bit the monotony of the green. So I added the purple kind of color here, and you can see that the eyes are also a bit blurry. And this is intentional because by making the contour of your eyes blurrier, you are making your highlights a bit stronger. You can see that in the original, there was a thick outline for the pupils, and that it's not bad per se. You can do that as a stylization decision. However, by making a contrast on the edges of the eyes, and by that I mean that here, for example, that's a hard edge, and here is a soft edge. You are creating very interesting set points. So your viewers uh, try to notice, and even if they don't admit it or they don't notice, they will gravitate towards those areas where the edges are different. Okay, so here, for example, I increased the contrast. I made these edges a bit harder, so that makes an interesting point compared to in the original, where the contrast was very weak. Okay. Another thing with the eyes, and this is the last point. Sorry, I probably overextended myself already. Is that with the eyes you have to think them as plates, and what I mean by that is that you're going to have, assuming a flat plate, you're going to have an area that is like very deep And you are going to have another area that is the bigger one, the older one, that's going to be more shallow. So by that I mean that you have to consider the pupil as a foot plate. uh, you're going to have a highlight in a point, which is your main highlight, and that highlight is going to travel across the plate and is going to stop here at the other side. What I mean by that is that basically this is going to create an effect that's going to start to look like this. This area, since it's not catching light directly, remember that the highlight enters here, but it's not setting on that plane. It's just entering. So this area here, and this is an approximation, of course, is going to look like this with the iris in the center, and the opposite plane of the plate. Hope that does not sound too confusing, is going to get illuminated by the light that entered at this point. So you basically, I hope you can see that that's the lining scheme that I set up in these eyes. So yeah, that was the last point, and I hope this was useful. And as I said at the start, I cannot post the whole video because it's not safe for work. If you want to watch it, please consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/virus. I have other videos that I also don't post in social media for the same reason. I also do postmortems of my own work. I annotate my own work, and sometimes I grab works from years ago and try to remake them now. So I think that's very useful. I also developed an app for a few drawing sessions, and that could be useful to you too. And several other resources and exclusives that I post exclusively there. So please consider checking it out. And the review. Yeah, I forgot about that. These reviews are for my patrons. It's a specific tier. You are going to see it when you enter there. And you can submit a piece per week. And I am going to do a review that includes a PSD with the original and the overpin and some notes on top. Okay. And I also provide the process video of the whole overpin. For this one, for example, I also did a process video, but I cannot I cannot post it here because the reasons I described. So yeah, and if you have any question, please let me know. I hope this has been useful, and I hope to see you later. Bye.